Hello, my name is Nico Steves. This podcast covers a lot of important events as the year 2022 comes to a close, with a brief update on the status of my new book, The Very Fine Light, to calendar events on dates this week that include the famous apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So reflections and prayers continue as the second candle on the Advent wreath has been lit. Good luck on your continued Advent journey and the Nativity fast as we are readying the birth of Christ into the world. First, a brief sidebar for another reflection that I hope you will take a moment to consider. On December 7th, 1941, the sneak attack at Pearl Harbor by Imperial Japan occurred, and it caused America's entry into World War II, following the loss of 2,300 military personnel and also civilians who were killed in that surprise attack. Following that, there was a moment in American history where United States citizens unified and truly worked together to protect the freedoms that we still share today. My uncle was there that fateful day. I occasionally think and wonder about what he must have saw and how he felt as a 19-year-old young man just beginning to explore what life had to offer. Fortunately for him, he survived, though his ship was damaged and he had to go transfer to another ship. But he died shortly after World War II. I never saw him. May God rest his soul. But returning now to December 2022, my book's release seems to be going well. Good reviews, and as this is the first book I have independently self-published, and doing so exclusively by selling it on Amazon.com, a few questions have come up by potential buyers I'd like to address. First, it is currently available in ebook form only. If the sales go well, then the print book and audiobook will follow early next year. Second, there's a link to purchase my book found on my website, nicosteves.com, or just type the book title in at Amazon.com, which would be The Very Fine Light, or you could also type in my name, Nikos Steves, and find the book. Third, you do not have to have a Kindle reader to purchase the book. Anyone with a tablet or cell phone can read it using a free app that's provided by Amazon, and that app can be found on the lower right-hand corner of the book's Amazon page. And finally, there's a link to a video on my website and also on my Amazon author page to my first video reading of still another chapter from the book. Now, before the second part of the podcast begins, the other major date this week is the celebration of the conception of the Virgin Mary this Thursday on December 8th. And so, now on to the story from Mexico City. Back in the year 1531, from December 9th through the 12th, when St. Juan Diego met the Virgin Mary. The year is 1531. It is rainy, cold, and a windy morning the first week of December. As church services began in the wee hours of the morning, a native who had been converted to Christianity set out on his trek to the church in what is now Mexico City. He lived to the north on the outskirts of the city. In the path between his hometown and the downtown city is a large stone outcrop, which stood out above the swamp-like landscape. Juan Diego hears music and sees lights begin to radiate on the top of this hill. He notices a cloud that forms at the center of this unusual display. It is silent and very quiet as the morning first comes around. All at once, streaks of light burst from the low-hanging cloud. Amazed at the sight, Juan stops to look up. He hears something. To his amazement, it seems to be a woman's voice. It sounds to him as though she is calling his name. Shocked, he becomes frozen where he stands. Again and again, he is sure she is saying, "Juan Diego! Juan Diego! Juan Diego!" His curiosity gets the better of him, and he climbs towards the top of the hill, where he discovers in the center of the cloud the lady. She is beautiful and radiant. "Juan Diego, my son, where are you going?" An account by Francis Johnston continues from his book, The Wonder of Guadalupe. When translated in English, Juan Diego replies, "Noble lady, I am on my way to Mass." The Madonna continued, "Know for certain, dearest, that I am the perfect and perpetual Virgin Mary, Mother of the true God, through whom everything lives, the Lord of all things, who is Master of heaven and earth. I ardently desire a teocalli, a temple, be built here for worship of my Son. It will be a place where I will show and offer all my love, my compassion, my help, and my protection to the people. I am your merciful mother, the mother of all who live united in this land, and of all mankind, of all who love me, of those who cry to me, of those who have confidence in me. Here I will hear their weeping and their sorrows, and will remedy and alleviate their sufferings, necessities, and misfortunes. Therefore, in order to realize my intentions, go to the house of the Bishop of Mexico City, and tell him that I sent you, and that it is my desire to have a temple built here. Tell him all that you have seen and heard. Be assured that I have been very grateful, and will reward you for doing diligently what I have asked of you. Now that you hear my words, my son, go and do everything best as you can." Humbled by Her Majesty, Juan Diego accepts the remarkable request. Descending the rocky slopes in wonderment, he makes his way to town. In a tentative state, because he realizes his humble appearance and daybreak call to Bishop Zumarraga may not be greeted with enthusiasm. The kind bishop, along with a translator of the Aztec language, listens to the amazing request from Juan Diego. Though impressed by the sincerity, the bishop asks a number of questions about Gospels, his occupation, and religious practices. Shaking his head, the bishop tells Juan Diego to come back another time, and that he would reflect on the story. With heavy heart, Juan Diego approaches the rocky hill, certain that he will find the apparition. Bowing low in admiration, he tells her of the bishop's response and begs forgiveness for failing her. Entrust this message to someone of importance, someone well known and respected, so that your wishes will be accomplished, for I am but a lowly peasant, and you, my lady, have sent me to a place where I have no standing. Forgive me if I have disappointed you for having failed in my mission." This statement of Juan Diego's helped to convince Pope John Paul II, 500 years later, to elevate Juan Diego to the status of saint. In his address on the same location in the year 2002, the Pope said, quote, "By his humble and noble manner, Juan Diego takes his rightful place in history. His modest demeanor and belief that he is not the best of people to carry out this request summons a mild soul, not a self-contained ego, but rather speaks from the heart." Unquote. The account continues. Mother Mary tenderly replies, "Listen to me, my dearest son, and understand that I have many servants and messengers whom I could charge with the delivery of my message. I urge you to go to the bishop again tomorrow. Tell him in my name, and make him fully understand my disposition that he should undertake the erection of the temple for which I ask. And repeat to him that it is I in person, the ever Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, who sent you." The next day, brushing aside fear of humiliation and being mauled by the guard dogs, Juan Diego murmurs a prayer to the Blessed Virgin before arriving. Greeted at the bishop's residence with disdain, he is kept waiting in the cold for a long time. Bishop Zumarraga, surprised to see him back so soon, is embarrassed as Juan Diego drops to his knees and tearfully pleads and begs, imploring the bishop to do as the Virgin requested. Unsure what to think, with great care the bishop asks Juan Diego, "Where did you see her? How long did she stay?" The native Mexican tells the same story as he had the day before with great sincerity. Though impressed by Juan Diego and his sincerity, the bishop did not want to commit to building a temple at such a remote spot on the basis of one Indian's unproven testimony. Concerned that the man could have some form of self-delusion, he decides the best way to determine just what to believe. He instructs Juan Diego to bring some sort of a sign from heaven. Eager, and with renewed hope that the bishop believes in his experience, Juan Diego asks what sort of a sign did the bishop want. Bishop Zumarraga hesitates, then says he will leave it up to the apparition to provide the sign. The bishop's men follow Juan Diego, but they lose him in the ravine by the hill. Juan Diego throws himself at her feet. "Juanito, what is the matter, my little son?" He had done the best he could, but he failed. Would the lady give him some kind of a sign to convince the bishop? "Go to the spot where you saw me before. There you will find many flowers. Gather them carefully." Using his apron-like coat, known as a tilma, to hold the flowers, descending the hill, he approaches the lady, who is in an oval blaze of light. He approaches and opens his apron to reveal the flowers. The lady begins to arrange them with her own hands. These varied flowers are the sign which you are to take to the bishop. Tell him everything. Explain how I sent you to the top of the hill, where you found these flowers growing in profusion, all ready to be gathered. Tell him once again all that you have seen and heard here, to induce him to comply with my wishes, so that the chapel I asked for may be built here. Beyond the out-of-season flowers getting his attention, the bishop is amazed to see an image of the Mother of Christ on the inside of the tilma. All the other men in the room fall to their knees upon seeing the miraculous image. The apparition indeed came to see the bishop. Word of the event spreads throughout the city. The following morning, throngs of people follow the sacred image as it is carried to the cathedral. The bishop and his party follow Juan to the spot where he saw the apparition. Bishop Zumarraga puts into works the immediate building of a small chapel on the spot. Well, this is Nico Steves. I hope you enjoyed this installment. My book can be found using the title, The Very Fine Light, on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at nicosteves@gmail.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves, @gmail.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends at constantprocession.com. Well, this is Nico Steves. Thank you. See you next time.